distribute them to the various agencies that get a copy, so that the taxes can start coming in on it. And you found a couple that one reported to be 1 foot off the ground, and it actually was 4 feet off the ground, 4.5 feet. So that's going to go to BIU. It was sort of a hole, a loophole in the application fee structure, and I think we just provide close that up by getting the money up front for the CO, or we have to rely on the applicant for doing it at later time.
You have a microphone? I can't hear a word you're saying.
I'm trying to speak as loud as I can. There is a District 5 sewage management ordinance letter that's been sent out to people living in a certain portion of the township. And I had a young lady ask me today for a list of the pumpers. And if you've received the letter, I put a list of the pumpers up there. I made copies of them so that on the way out or sometime tonight, if you need a list of septic pumpers, there's a list up there with their phone numbers included. As far as the number of outstanding properties that need COs, I'll let Steve address that. He sort of has a rough handle on it by going over the informational improvement management. And that's it.
Thanks. Okay, Steve, the zoning officer will now give his report. Steve Miller.
Well, from 7/19 to today, we did a total of 21 permits and 18 COs. Meetings that I attended, I had the first one was at Magistrate Olson's office, and the case was dismissed without prejudice because we couldn't find, we had to find a letter for something where the defendant agreed to pay these charges, and we couldn't find anything, so the judge respectfully put the burden of proof on me and withdrew the citation was withdrawn. I met on July 20th with representatives of Greenway proposing a rehab in Henryville. I have to say that I've had some time off because I've been taking my wife to the St. Luke's Hospital for some surgery. So this is sort of an abbreviated report. Going past that, I met with litter control on various sites in the township. We're trying as best as we can to catch a lot of these people that are tossing their garbage all over the place. On July 26th, I attended a variance for Mr. Mark Robbins. He received a variance in a side yard setback variance in order to construct his ADA or handicap ramp and his garage. On July 26th, I met with the owner of the proposed Dairy Queen regarding signage. Moving on to items and issues worked on. When I say working on open residential and commercial permits, I'd like to elaborate on that a bit. In April 9th of 2004, the Uniform Construction Act of Pennsylvania, commonly known as Act 45, was adopted. There are some things that nobody foresaw. One of them is, when a person starts a job, the building codes officials' policies, they have 5 years to complete. A lot of the contractors get their final pay, they take off, and even after the job is finished, we have no idea. I have to contact the people, find out where the job is, and of course, the township is missing the CO revenue from these jobs. Now, there were a total of 312 open permits, 69 commercial, and the balance residential. Dennis has been going out for me and checking these jobs out, and the ones that are still open, I've been turning over to the building code official to get a status. And I agree with his suggestion that from now on, because of this, we're going to, at time of zoning application submittal, we are going to request, in addition to the fee, we're going to request that they post the CO fee along with it. That way, if the people move to Florida, the house is abandoned, the township doesn't lose its fee. And it is a problem. I went to every bank in this township, and I tried to get a policy where they could withhold the last payment on a contractor if he doesn't get final approval. The bank said that only works for commercial. Residential, if you want to install an in-ground pool, they give you the $25,000 up front, and how the applicant or the homeowner pays is his business. So this is why we have these open permits.
Are these places all empty?
No, a lot of people have been using the pools and occupying them. I was forced.
They just never came in for the
Right.
CO.
So I was forced to take 212 people to the magistrate at our cost. Okay? I thought about how much that would cost and how much time consuming. I have to fill out an affidavit and a civil suit for each one. And I said, it's just not worth it, and it's gonna create a lot of disharmony. The people are all gonna say the same thing.
Then I
My
said,
contractor never told me.
I got the answer, and I drug it out.
He came up and he said, well, let's do this. Let's get the CO up front. I said, everybody else gets their money up front. I can just about everyone gets it. We're not giving them a CO. We're not promising them a CO because it's still an incomplete application. You can't get a CO until an approved application comes in. We're only holding the CO fund in escrow. If they don't pass, they get their money back. And that's how we're going to do it here, with the supervisor's approval. I'm going to go on from that, otherwise we'll never get off of it. I did reports to the U.S. Census Bureau and Monroe County Planning Commission, which I do every month. Even if there's no construction, if there's no new single-family dwellings, they want to know what's going on in the town.
At any time during the police chief controversy, has anybody asked the police that they work with if what they would like to see? Has anybody ever done that?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you think that that would be a good idea? Like they do at the fire department. I believe in the fire department, the firemen pick the fire chief. Now, I know that this is much different, but has anybody asked the police what they thought? Do you think that that would be a good idea?
Would be, but I don't think that's been done to my knowledge. It must be formal.
Do you think it would be a good idea, though? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I think it would be a good idea to find out what happens next year.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you now. Okay. What I'll do is ask for any other comments at this time before we go into executive session. So are there any other comments or any other? Yes.
Jane, I have one thing. This is really the first meeting that I've been to revolving all of this. Debbie Johnson. But I do have one thing that I'm seeing and standing back here and watching your mannerisms in relative to Frank and even in relative to us. You have to, whatever time you have remaining, you need to try to work together. And you do work for us. I mean, you're really bitter, you're angry, and it's coming across to all of us. You have in the past served us very well, but I'm really put off by your whole attitude towards all of us. I mean, we're
My
here.
attitude to you, Debbie, or any of this group is, I appreciate your coming here, and I appreciate it. I don't have any attitude towards anybody except I like
Yes,
every
Jane, I'm
customer.
afraid you do.
Yes,
I mean, it's
no, I
evident to
don't.
all of
You're
us
getting it
sitting
wrong.
here.
You're getting it wrong, Debbie.
I mean, you can barely even look at Mr. Hess.
Well,
I
Debbie,
mean, that's kind of really poor. We have voted. You have been voted in, all three of you, by all of us. I just am really getting a very, very sad, terrible feeling. I mean, you just can't make eye contact.
Excuse me?
Your body language is terrible.
Okay, I appreciate your comment. Yes?
After the executive session, will you come out and make an announcement or something? Or, I mean, is there a value in us sticking around for you to come out?
If, Judy, if anything is decided to be, or they kind of reach a consensus of where they want to go, to formally put that in place, they would have to make the formal motion and approve that. Will that happen, or will it just come out and say it's something we're gonna study further? They're both probably equal possibilities. So, it's hard to say. The executives, what happens in there is really gonna dictate. I mean, they may just say, we have a lot more to talk about, so we're not ready yet. Or they may walk in and say, we're all on the same page, we know exactly what we wanna do. You know, kick that around a little bit and then commit to it.
Okay, great. One
It's
more
really hard to
follow-up,
say.
one more follow-up question. Do you have any insight at all as to what motivated the chief to come to somebody here, you maybe, Jane, or call you or whatever, and say, I've interviewed the candidates, I've gotten the insights from the panel, and I'm keeping the job? I mean, it seems odd that for months you would ask him to stay, and he would say, no, I really need to leave, I'll help you find somebody. You go through the interview process, which the natural next step is, what did you think? What did you think? What did you think? What did you think? And you collect the input on the candidates, and then you move forward. Do you have any insight of what motivated him to contact you and say, after having interviewed these candidates, I'm staying, prior to this letter?
We asked him to stay. We asked him to stay because of the fact that we had Homeland Security, we had the
But you asked him
police
before the interview, and he said, no,
Well, I think we already discussed that.
I didn't hear the answer. So why,
Why
someone
is the
this,
answer to
earlier this week, the chief decided to stay after the interview. There's no insight as to why? Why he decided to stay after the interviews?
We asked him and he decided to.
So he had the interviews, you picked up the phone and said, Rick, will you stay?
We didn't know.
He called you, he called you and said, you don't remember how it worked out? Okay, so I understand personnel meetings don't have to be announced, I understand that, and I'm learning here there wasn't a personnel meeting. But after an interview for a rather important job in this township, somebody does a 180, and then 3 days later or 4 days later does another 180, and I'm just curious.
That's why I think, like, at this time when nobody knows the answer to how that vote went, this is a perfect time to let it go through, because nobody knows the answer. Those men have a vote evidently, I would think they did, so let them vote at this point, let it get done with and let's get past this.
And we want it in writing.
Well, we're going to go into executive session.
Would you want to answer somebody first?
Oh, please.
Excuse me. The Board of Supervisors, as you know, went into executive session, discussed the various options that were available to him. Tim and I made some recommendations and some suggestions as to process, and the board, discussing all of that, in essence, has made a determination as to how we want to proceed. Tim will lay it out more clearly, but very simply this: the process that has been in place to this point with the panel will not be abandoned. It will be built into the process that they're going to use to make a final selection. In short, the board will meet with the panel who did the interviewing, get their feedback, their recommendations, ask some questions, make sure they understand why they came up with the recommendations. The panel will look at the rankings of people. They will meet with, if necessary, after that. If they're very satisfied with what the panel has done, with their recommendations and their discussions with the panel, assuming that the panel is willing to meet with them, and then make a decision. So that process, the integrity of that process will still be in place, and the recommendations will still be in place. But the board, since they are the ones who are ultimately responsible for casting that vote, filling that vacancy, will do that. And I'll turn it to Tim, he can fine tune it.
And I think Rich pretty much covered it all. Just to recap for the board, the way I think I understand it is that the supervisors will meet with the 3 police chiefs, not including Chief Staples, the 3 police chiefs that conducted the interviews, Purpose of that meeting will be to pretty much find out what their decisions were and the basis for their decision, to make sure the supervisors are comfortable with that, since they're the ones ultimately making the decision to hire. If there are any questions, or if they feel there's a need, they will also reserve the right to themselves interview or meet with any one of the three or all three candidates if they feel they need clarification. And then based upon that, we would have at a public meeting, there would be a vote taken to appoint the next police chief based on that information. And I think that's the process we're all pretty much on board with. If that works, you'll just need a motion to authorize that process. And if that's approved, then you can just put that would be in place.
Do I have a motion to authorize the process to Ms. Jessup? Submitted.
Could I ask a question first?
Well, we have
Sure.
to have
All
a
right,
motion and a
just a
second.
question before you make a motion,
Well, we have to
if
have
I
a
may or
motion
not.
and a second.
We just need a motion in a second, and before they vote, then you can make a comment.
Okay, excuse me.
So do I have a motion for that, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Now you make, no, wait.
Could you include in your process the two incumbent supervisors, because they will be basically the recipient of the new chief? Or is that out of the question?
At this point, it's really an existing board of supervisors. I mean, that was part of the discussion, whether this would wait for the next board or not, and I think the feeling is that it's important enough position to get filled at this point, and it's really the existing supervisors that really have the authority for input on that.
Mary?
Two questions. I just want to clarify that Chief Staples will not be part of this process?
That's
It
correct.
will just be the other three gentlemen? Okay.
That's the other.
And timing-wise, what are you expecting?
We'd like to do it as soon as we can.
So you'd like to be having a motion on this for the next supervisors meeting if possible?
Yeah, well, depending on when these three.
Availability.
I think some of that will, yeah, probably be the availability of
But we'd
other
like to
chiefs
do
at
it
this
as soon as
point.
we can.
But we're going to try to move this process through because we will be having an acting chief
Correct.
after August the 8th. Thank you.
If you interview one of the, if you feel that it's necessary that you interviewed yourself, would you interview all of them if you interviewed
Oh,
any
sure.
of them?
Absolutely.
Okay. And it would be
We don't, you're talking about
the actual candidates for
the
the job.
candidates, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be talking to the police chiefs, actually.
Yeah.
We don't feel that, you know, if we need more information or something, we can also, because we know these guys pretty good.
Yeah, I think, Judy, that was more reservation for if they need clarification, like something comes up in the discussions with the committee of police chiefs, and there's something that's not clear, and they feel we've got to explore this, or one of the candidates for some reason, they reserve that right. I don't think the main point right now is to consider setting up all new interviews with the candidates. It's only really if the need arises for clarification, I think is what the board was looking for.
Yes, ma'am?
Will the results of the three-member panel be made public?
I don't know.
That's legal.
I don't know that it's absolutely necessary.
I'm not asking whether it's necessary, I'm asking whether it will happen.
That's your decision.
I really don't know at this time, you know, what do you mean?
When I
Individually,
spoke with
is that what you're saying?
When I spoke with you and Frank last week, your discussion with me was that whatever the panel's decision was going to be your vote, that you had confidence in this panel.
Well, true.
And now there's been a little bit of a change there. So I was just wondering if, I would say that public confidence is somewhat low at this point.
To be honest with you, I'm gonna ask them for the results in writing.
Okay.
Yeah, we will.
Yes, because for that same reason, I want everything to end with this. All the problems, everything, this should be the end.
I would agree.
Yeah, so let's, I want to see that in writing.
Well, we would have to.
So you plan on getting that in writing, and you will be sharing the results with the public, or you will not?
If there's nothing
Or
you
is that
need,
what you're going to be basing your decision?
it depends on how the board.
you'll know.
If we need clarification on something else, you know, Mary.
How long have you lived in Humphrey, Texas? Okay, thank you.
If we need clarification on, if we need clarification on something, we'll talk to, individually, if we need questions, we have questions.
Okay, and you do expect this, the vote to be happening in a regularly scheduled supervisors